letting all the people know that I'm back to run the show. Let's turn up the man. Come on, let's turn up the man. Oh my God.
The family dynamic in The Office. Like I said in my previous video, I've watched this show well over 20 times, and I've nearly finished it for the 27th time now, so I'm going to be on my 28th viewing after I finish watching it. Anyway, I'm going to say how I think the family dynamic in The Office is represented. As well as Michael says, they are one big, incestuous kind of family. And, well, I've made a graph. Here it is. I'm going to show you guys how it looks. I'm going to go into detail with this, well, now, obviously. I'm going to be explaining it all. First, we have Creed. I have him directly under Michael, which naturally people would have assumed that Michael would be Creed's son, but that's not really what I mean. He's more like a creepy uncle, or a distant creepy uncle, or just a weird granddad, just a creepy old relative who's been distant from the family. He's mainly creepy because of his age and the time he grew up in, so that's part of the reason why. There's not much to say about him. He's just a creepy old relative that they know, they don't really talk to that much. That's it, really. And then next we have Michael, who's just like the father of the office. That's how he views himself, because he's the boss. And not just that, but also the way he exerts himself, and he just seems to be, he has the need to want to be like a father. Now I have him listed as the father of the following three: Jim, Dwight and Ryan. Now this is the most obvious one, I think, out of all the like children dynamics, because it's probably shown the most as well. I put Jim as the oldest, Dwight as the middle. I was conflicted at first as to whether I thought Dwight would be the oldest and Jim would be the middle, but I think Jim being the oldest and Dwight being the middle is probably more accurate. This is because Dwight craves approval from Michael. That's not normally the case with middle children. They just kind of want to do their own thing most of the time, like Jim does. However, it's just that, well, no parent really prefers the middle child over the older child. That's why Jim is the oldest and not Dwight. And Michael always wants to prove himself to Jim, trying to make him laugh. Because from how I see it in this metaphorical family, Jim doesn't crave approval from his fictitious parent Michael, unlike Dwight, who craves Michael's approval and tries desperately to make him laugh, and Dwight desperately just wants to make him proud. Well, however, later on he doesn't really have that craving need for approval as much anymore, which happens obviously as a child grows up. I don't think that they should want to continuously gain their parents' approval all the time. Then we have Ryan, who came in as a new character from the start, and the way Michael treats him is to that similar of Jim, because he failed with Jim. Jim doesn't really care about him that much. Not care about Michael, but he doesn't. It's just the way that Jim is around Michael is very chill. He doesn't like going out of his way to impress him or anything. But obviously Michael's trying to impress Jim. Now he wants to impress Ryan and make him proud of him, which is a bit odd, to be fair. There isn't much to say about him in general, because he doesn't have that much of a presence, other than the fact that he's the youngest of Michael's three boys. This is the most obvious one, because it is addressed several times throughout the show. Michael saying that Ryan isn't Dwight's 5-year-old brother, and how Jim and Dwight team up at the end of sales calls as brothers, and Michael's relation with those three are constantly kind of their father. Now if we look along the line, I'll go towards the right now. I've got Angela X Oscar. Now the X is there is how I see it, and I believe the way they act. I see them as a divorced couple who just seem to get along, with Kevin being their son. I'd say first I saw it as one of the two ways. Oscar and Kevin are like brothers, and Angela's like their mother, but I don't know, that just didn't make that much sense to me when I actually thought about it. So I think it makes just a bit more sense to have Kevin as their kid, because of the way they act and how they are with each other. For example, Angela and Oscar, they talk to each other like a divorced couple who are just ended on good terms. They only divorced because it's probably what was best for them, And they still are good friends. It just didn't really work out, and it was best for the relationship if they just stayed as friends. And neither of them are really too upset about that. Now, Kevin being their kid, I see it as Oscar ended up being the primary caregiver for Kevin. And basically because of how chill Oscar is with Angela, he kind of picked up on it. And that's why Kevin treats her as well, how Oscar treats her similarly. He's not afraid to confront her if she's doing something wrong or distasteful. But also, this is some insane backstory, and this is continuously going to have some insane backstory just continuously throughout this video. But the reason in this Office incestuous family, Angela is mean to Kevin, because he is, how I see it, is the reason that Oscar and Angela, metaphorically obviously, got divorced, and she resents him for that. Now, Meredith is similar to Creed, like the kind of the oddball of the family. I was going to say he's like the father of Meredith, but seeing how they've so, well, it's just best that they aren't directly related. Anyway, she's more like a weird aunt who kind of gets drunk and is quite 2D compared to her sisters, who would be Phyllis and Angela. Because, she's not got any ulterior motive. What you see is what you get. She's just quite honest and open. You know, she would probably be like the second youngest, maybe a middle child, just a lack of attention. She just turned to the drink and is just doing her own thing as an alcoholic, I guess. She's quite simple, really. Next would be Phyllis. Now I've got Pam, Kelly, and Erin as her metaphorical daughters. I think out of all of these, Erin is probably the most obvious one. That's because for a couple of episodes, Erin was actually thought to be Phyllis's daughter. Phyllis gave away a child when she was younger. It was given away the same year Erin was born and the same region that Erin was given away, which in and of itself is crazy coincidence. I mean, obviously that was just for plot purposes, but still, that is crazy. And then the way Erin treats Phyllis, no, the way Phyllis treats Erin, sorry, is how I guess her mother would treat the youngest daughter. I mean, she's definitely the favorite out of the three. She's nicer to her. She's kinder to her, you know, just because parents prefer the youngest. I don't really know why, it just tends to be the case. I guess they're just kind of like worn out from all those years of parenting the oldest two, or the oldest siblings, so they're just not really bothered with it. And the least obvious here would be Kelly. I mean, one could argue that I just put her there because she didn't properly fit in anywhere else, but then I would counter-argue that with saying, with her minimal interactions with Phyllis and how she just is in general, how she keeps up with like social media or news, events, entertainment, stuff like that, because of the lack of attention as the middle child, she didn't get any attention, right? So she turned her attention to something else. She doesn't really interact with Phyllis that much because Phyllis isn't that much of a mother to her. She's more just like somebody that raised her, or she's someone she knows. She's not like an actual mother, you know? And again, there's not really much else to say other than that. It has minimal interactions with Phyllis because Phyllis didn't actually properly raise her. Now, Pam has a more interesting dynamic with Phyllis and Angela. I mean, all three of them have quite an interesting dynamic, I'd say. I mean, the way Pam is treated by Phyllis basically does slight jabs to Pam, makes her feel a bit insecure, a bit small, I guess. She has little body shots at her, and she's just really mean to her. And frankly, it's because she's jealous of Pam, simply put. I mean, this family dynamic, about how she's jealous about her in general, about how more beautiful Pam is than Phyllis, you know, even at her best. She's more jealous of her because she has more opportunities than Phyllis had, because she had to give up her opportunities. And this is obviously all metaphorical, it's like with quotation marks, and it's more like in the sense that this happens in real families, and I'm comparing some families to this, I guess, because it kind of works. To me it works, at least. I don't know. If you disagree, let me know. But she's basically just plenty resentful to Pam because of how much opportunities she's had to live her life, and also about how much better Pam is than her as well. It's the same with Angela as well, to be honest. Now, the reason Phyllis does this to Pam is because Angela did this to Phyllis, and I'm assuming it's because their metaphorical mother did that to Angela, if that makes sense. I mean, this honestly also makes no sense, but it also does make sense at the same time, because what I'm saying is, this is how it would work if they were a family. I'm basically just creating backstory to where it doesn't exist. Angela is like Phyllis's older sister, who basically does what Phyllis does to Pam. It makes her feel insecure and small and stuff like that, because she's insecure, and it's just a continuous cycle, really. I mean, it's going to happen over and over again until someone puts a stop to it. In this case, it would be Pam who puts a stop to it. Angela is jealous of Pam in the same sense that Phyllis is, except she's only jealous of her because, well, Pam's ahead of her in life, and she's better than both of them, Phyllis and Angela. You know, in every sense of the word, she's just better than them. And they're just jealous of her because of that, you know? She's just a natural, I guess. And then finally we have Stanley, Andy, and Daryl. So I'd say Stanley and Phyllis are close as kids growing up, as like close brother and sister growing up. You know, with Phyllis being a bit older than Stanley. And they just kind of kept it real with each other, I think. Because the way Stanley is around Phyllis, he's quite chill and quite relaxed. I mean, I think he keeps her grounded in a sense, tries to reassure her about insecurities maybe, and he obviously does definitely care about her, but from years of relentless bullying by her older sister Angela, you know, she's still worried she's what Angela thinks of her. Anyway, originally I was going to put Andy as Michael's son, but it just didn't seem right. I mean, he seems more like an annoying nephew rather than an annoying son, well, to Michael at least. And the way he comes in at third season, it just wouldn't seem right to put him as Michael's son, more so a bit to the side, so as a nephew. Also, for a second, I'd just like to say that I'll be saying the Andy that we're primarily looking at here is like season 5 to 8 Andy, when he's at his best, so not really him at season 9 or season 3 or 4. Mainly, yeah, 5 to 8, possibly 6 to 7 as well, because that's when he's at his best in my opinion. Anyway, I do like his dynamic with Daryl. They are quite close. I have them as brothers, and they're kind of like some brothers similar to Dwight and Jim. They just didn't really get along that well at the start, but then later on they developed a stronger bond and became closer with each other. Now I have Stanley as their father, but he's more like an uncle. However, it just wouldn't really fit if I put him as their uncle instead of their father. But I mean, he kind of fits the inattentive father who doesn't really care too much for his kids either. He just wants to be left alone and relax. He just kind of had kids for the sake of having kids, you know? And that's how I see it anyway. Yeah, but anyway, that's that basically. Let me know what you think. And if you would make any changes, well, let me know what they are. And if you disagree with anything, also, yeah, let me know. But yeah, thanks for watching.